The knock on my door wasn't just a sound, it was a prelude to a demolition. It was 7:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the time because Lynn, my 6-year-old, was sitting at the kitchen island struggling with a math worksheet, her brow furrowed in that intense way that made my chest ache with love. The air in our small 2-bedroom apartment smelled like roasted garlic and laundry detergent, the scent of our safe, quiet life. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My parents only called when they needed something, and my social life had evaporated somewhere between paying for preschool and working double shifts at Dr. Martinez's dental practice. I opened the door and the air shifted. It literally felt like the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Standing there was a woman who looked like she had just stepped out of a Vogue editorial. She wore a cream-colored cashmere coat that probably cost more than my car, immaculate makeup that highlighted her high cheekbones, and diamond studs that caught the hallway light. It took my brain 3 full seconds to reconcile this image with the memory of the girl I hadn't seen in 6 years. "Hello, Jasmine," she said. Her voice was smooth, polished. Gone was the nasal whine of the teenager who used to scream at our mother for buying the wrong brand of cereal. "Rachel?" I breathed out, my hand tightening on the doorknob. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Those eyes were cold, assessing. She looked over my shoulder, scanning the apartment behind me like a health inspector looking for a violation. "May we come in?" she asked. Only then did I notice the man standing behind her. He was tall, wearing a charcoal suit that screamed investment banker, with a face that was handsome in a generic, expensive way. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Who is we?" I asked, not moving. My body was reacting before my mind could catch up. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a primal warning signal. "Danger. Danger." "This is Marcus," Rachel said, linking her arm through his. "My fiancé. We're getting married in the Hamptons next month." "Congrats," I said flatly. "What do you want, Rachel?" "I want to see my daughter," she said. The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Inside the kitchen, the scratching of Lynn's pencil stopped. "You don't have a daughter," I said, my voice low, dangerous. "You signed your rights away 6 years ago. You haven't sent a card, a text, or a dollar. You don't have a daughter." Rachel sighed, a delicate, practiced sound of frustration. She looked up at Marcus with a wobbling lip. "See, darling. I told you she would be difficult. She's still so bitter." Marcus stepped forward, his voice conciliatory but condescending. "Look, Jasmine, is it? We understand this is a shock. But Rachel has turned her life around. We have significant resources now. We just want to reintegrate Lynn into her biological family." Reintegrate? Like she was a software update. Like she was a stray cat. "Lynn knows who her family is," I said, stepping out into the hallway and pulling the door almost shut behind me. I didn't want Lynn to hear this filth. Her family is the person who wiped her nose when she had the flu. The person who taught her to tie her shoes. The person who was there for every nightmare and every scraped knee. Rachel's mask slipped, just for a fraction of a second. Her eyes narrowed into slits. "I am her mother, Jasmine. Biology trumps your little babysitting gig. We have a lawyer. A very expensive one. We're filing for full custody on Monday." My stomach dropped. Custody. The word tasted like ash. "You abandoned her," I hissed. "You left her to die." I was suffering from postpartum depression. Rachel's voice rose, shrill and theatrical, clearly for Marcus's benefit. "I was a child myself. I needed help and you stole her when I was vulnerable." "Stole her?" I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "You left her in a crib for 8 hours while you went to a frat party, Rachel. She was 3 months old." Marcus looked at Rachel, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. Rachel squeezed his arm, hard. She's lying, Marcus. She's always been jealous of me. She's trying to poison you against me just like she poisoned my parents. Leave, I said, my hand shaking. Get off my property before I call the police. Rachel smoothed her coat. She regained her composure instantly, a terrifying switch. She leaned in close to me, the smell of expensive perfume, Chanel No. 5, invading my space. We're going to take her, Jasmine, she whispered, low enough that Marcus couldn't hear. I have the money now. I have the lawyer. And you? You're just a dental hygienist living in a rental. You can't fight me. Don't make this ugly. Just hand her over. She pulled back and gave me a dazzling, fake smile. It was lovely to see you, sis. Tell Lynn. Mommy is coming for her. They walked away down the hall, the click-clack of her heels echoing like gunshots. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where they had been. My knees felt weak. I turned back to the door, took a deep breath, and plastered a smile on my face before entering the apartment. Lynn looked up from the table. Who was that, Mommy? Just someone selling magazines, baby, I lied. I walked over and kissed the top of her head, burying my nose in her hair. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and innocence. Mommy, you're shaking, she said, putting her small hand on my arm. I'm just cold, I whispered. Just a little cold. I held her tight, terrified that if I let go, she would disappear. Rachel was back. The monster under the bed was real, and she was wearing cashmere. That night, 6 years ago, plays in my head on a loop. It's the nightmare I wake up from, sweating and gasping for air. I was 22, in my final year of college, studying graphic design. I had a future. I had plans. But those plans didn't matter to my family. In the hierarchy of our household, Rachel was the sun, and the rest of us were just planets orbiting her, hoping not to get burned. It was a Friday in November. A bitter, rainy Seattle night. I had come home for the weekend to do laundry and study. My parents were out of town at a casino resort, celebrating their anniversary. They had left Rachel, then 18, and fresh out of high school, alone with 3-month-old Lynn. Just check on her, my mom had told me over the phone. Rachel says the baby has been fussy. When I unlocked the front door of my parents' house, the silence was what hit me first. Not the peaceful silence of a sleeping house, but a heavy, wrong silence. The heating was off. The house was freezing. Rachel? I called out. No answer. I ran up the stairs, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Rachel's room was a disaster zone, clothes everywhere, makeup spilled on the vanity, a half-drunk bottle of vodka on the floor. But Rachel wasn't there. I ran to the nursery. The smell hit me before I saw her. The sharp, acrid stench of urine and sour milk. Lynn was in the crib. She wasn't crying. That was the scariest part. She was too weak to cry. Her face was bright red, her skin hot to the touch, but her lips were parched and cracked. I scooped her up. Her diaper was so heavy it sagged to her knees, leaking onto the sheets. The rash on her legs was angry, blistering red flesh. She opened her mouth to scream, but only a dry, raspy wheeze came out. Her voice was gone. She had screamed until she couldn't scream anymore. Oh my God, I sobbed, fumbling with the buttons of her onesie. I rushed her to the bathroom, cleaning her with trembling hands, trying to get water into her system with a dropper because she was too weak to latch onto a bottle. I checked the time. My parents had left at noon. I arrived at 8 p.m. I sat in the rocking chair in the dark nursery, holding that tiny, shivering bundle against my chest, trying to share my body heat. I sat there for hours, rage building in my gut like molten lead. At 4:15 a.m., I heard the front door stumble open. Giggle. Shushing sounds. I walked to the top of the stairs, Lynn sleeping fitfully in my arms. Rachel was down there, swaying in the hallway, her dress slipping off one shoulder. She was wasted. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. "Hey, Jazz," she slurred, looking up at me. "What are you doing here? Where have you been?" I asked. My voice was deadly quiet. "Just out," she waved a hand dismissively, nearly losing her balance. "Needed a break. Being a mom is so boring." "God, stop looking at me like that." "You left her," I said, descending the stairs slowly. "You left a 3-month-old infant alone in a freezing house for 8 hours, Rachel." She was dehydrated. She lost her voice from screaming. She could have died. Rachel rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, drama queen. She's fine, right? She's sleeping. See? No harm done." She tried to brush past me to get to the kitchen. "No harm done." I blocked her path. "Look at her. Look at her skin. Look at her lips." Rachel shoved me. "Get out of my face. It's my kid. I can do what I want. You're just jealous because I have a life and you're just a boring nerd." "I'm taking her," I said. It wasn't a decision I made, it was a fact that settled in my bones. "Good?" Rachel screamed, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge and chugging it. "Take the little parasite. She ruined my body anyway. She ruined my life. I missed the Phi Kappa party last week because of her. Take her. Get out." I didn't wait for her to say it twice. I packed a bag. I took the formula, the diapers, the few clean clothes Lynn had. As I walked out the door into the rain, strapping Lynn into my beat-up Honda Civic, Rachel stood in the doorway, laughing. "Don't bring her back until she stops crying," she yelled. That was the last time Rachel asked about Lynn for 6 years. Until the cashmere coat. Until the billionaire fiancé. Until she needed a prop for her perfect life. I looked at the rearview mirror that night, seeing Lynn's car seat, and I made a promise. I will never let her hurt you again. I broke that promise the moment I opened the door to Rachel yesterday. And now, I had to fix it. The legal papers arrived 3 days after Rachel's visit. A process server caught me in the parking lot of the dental clinic. "Jasmine Miller," he asked, thrusting a thick envelope into my hands. "You've been served." I sat in my car, my hands shaking so hard I could barely tear the envelope open. Petition for full custody. Allegations of parental alienation. Request for immediate temporary guardianship. Rachel wasn't just suing for visitation, she was going for the throat. The affidavit was a work of fiction that would make Stephen King jealous. It claimed I had coerced a vulnerable minor into giving up her child. It claimed I had refused to let Rachel see Lynn. It claimed I was unstable and living in substandard conditions. I drove straight to my parents' house. I needed allies. I needed witnesses. They knew the truth. They knew Rachel had abandoned Lynn. They had been the ones who told me, "Keep her, we can't handle Rachel right now." I slammed my car door and stormed up their driveway. My dad was watering the hydrangeas. My mom was on the porch, reading a magazine. "Did you know?" I demanded, holding up the papers. My mom sighed, closing her magazine. She didn't look surprised. That was the first dagger to the heart. "Jasmine, calm down," she said, patting the seat next to her. "We need to talk." "Talk." I paced on the grass. "She's suing me, Mom. She's trying to take Lynn. You know what she did. You know she left her to die that night." "That was a long time ago," my dad said, turning off the hose. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Rachel was young. She made mistakes. We all make mistakes. Mistakes. I choked out. She didn't forget to take the trash out, Dad. She neglected a human being. She's changed, Mom said, her voice taking on that dreamy quality she always used when talking about Rachel. Have you seen her, Jasmine? She looks wonderful. Marcus is, well, he's extremely successful. He comes from a very prominent family. And there it was. The currency that mattered most to my parents. Status. Money. So that's it? I asked, feeling cold spreading through my veins. Because she married a rich guy, she gets to be a mother now. What about the last 6 years? I dropped out of college, Mom. I worked 3 jobs. I scraped pennies to buy her asthma medicine. Where were you then? You stepped up and we appreciate that, Dad said, finally looking at me. But Jasmine, be realistic. Rachel can provide things for Lynn that you can't. Private schools. Vacations. A trust fund. Can you give her a trust fund? I can give her love. I screamed. I can give her safety. Love doesn't pay for Harvard, Mom snapped. Don't be selfish, Jasmine. Don't hold the girl back just because you want to play mommy. Lynn deserves the best. And frankly, Rachel is her mother. Blood is blood. The betrayal was physical. It felt like a punch to the gut. They weren't just neutral, they were on her side. They were rewriting history to fit the new narrative where their golden child married a millionaire. I was just the placeholder. The babysitter who stayed too long. I can't believe you, I whispered. You're going to let her take her. You know Rachel doesn't love her. You know she's up to something. Rachel wants her family back, Mom said firmly. We are supporting her. And we think you should too. If you fight this, Jasmine, you're going to lose. You don't have the money for a lawyer. You don't have the status. Just let it go. Work out a visitation schedule. Don't embarrass us in court. Embarrass you? I backed away, clutching the legal papers to my chest. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm going to expose you. All of you. I got back in my car, tears blurring my vision. I was alone. Completely and utterly alone. My bank account had $4,000 in savings, my emergency fund. Rachel's lawyer probably charged that for a lunch meeting. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Selfish. They called me selfish for protecting a child from a woman who called her a parasite. I wiped my face. The tears stopped. A cold, hard clarity settled over me. It was the same feeling I had that night 6 years ago when I packed Lynn's bag. They thought I was weak. They thought I was just the quiet, obedient Jasmine who cleaned up Rachel's messes. They were wrong. I wasn't the housekeeper anymore. I was a mother. And a mother protects her young. If they wanted a war, I would give them one. But I couldn't fight with money. I had to fight with truth. And to do that, I needed ammunition. I drove home in silence. The crying stage was over. The snap had happened. It's a strange phenomenon, when your heart breaks so completely that it calcifies. You stop feeling the pain and start seeing the angles. I sat at my kitchen table, the legal papers spread out before me like a battle map. I couldn't afford a high-powered defense attorney, but I could afford a decent family law practitioner. I called an old friend from high school, Sarah, who was now a paralegal. She recommended a lawyer named Mr. Henderson. He was older, grumpy, and worked out of a strip mall, but he was honest. It's going to be an uphill battle, Jasmine, Henderson told me over the phone the next day. The courts favor biological parents. And money talks. If she can prove she's stable and you're alienating the child, we have a problem. We need proof. Hard proof. Not just he said she said. Proof. Rachel was careful. She hadn't sent texts. She hadn't sent emails. She had ghosted us completely. Her absence was my proof, but the court might see her return as redemption. I needed something that showed her character. Something that showed her intent. Then I remembered. The basement. When Rachel moved out of my parents' house to travel Europe, which was actually just her chasing a DJ to Ibiza, she had left boxes of junk behind. My parents, being hoarders of sentimental trash, had shoved them into the crawl space of their basement. I still had a key to their house. I knew their schedule. Wednesday nights, they went to bingo at the country club. I waited until 7 p.m. on Wednesday. I parked 2 streets over and walked to the house, pulling my hood up. I felt like a criminal breaking into my childhood home, but technically, I was still a resident on some of their insurance forms. I let myself in. The house was quiet. I went straight to the basement. It smelled of mold and old cedar. I pulled the string for the lone light bulb. Shadows danced across piles of Christmas decorations and old furniture. In the corner, labeled Rachel's stuff, do not touch, were 3 plastic bins. I ripped the lid off the first one. Clothes. Outdated fashion from 6 years ago. Glitter tops, platform heels. The second bin. High school yearbooks. Photo albums. The third bin. It was heavy. Books. Not textbooks, Rachel hated studying. These were notebooks. Sketchbooks. And diaries. My heart hammered against my ribs. Rachel was a narcissist. She loved writing about herself. She documented everything because she believed her life was a movie everyone should watch. I grabbed the stack of journals. I flipped through the dates. 2015, 2016. 2017, 2018, the year Lynn was born. I sat on the cold concrete floor and opened the black leather-bound journal. January 12, 2018, 2 lines. I can't believe this. My life is over. I hate this thing inside me. Mom says I have to keep it because family image blah blah. I want to claw it out. I shivered. March 4, 2018, getting fat. I look disgusting. Brandon left me. I hate this baby. I swear as soon as it's out, I'm dumping it. Jasmine loves kids. She's pathetic enough to take it. I gasped. It was all there. The premeditation. The malice. But then, a piece of paper fluttered out from the back of the book. It wasn't a diary entry. It was a letter. Handwritten, addressed to Sierra, her best friend at the time. I read it and my blood ran cold. Sierra, you won't believe the plan. Once the brat is born, I'm going to play the sad young mom card for a few weeks to get dad to buy me that convertible. Then, I'm going to leave the baby with Jasmine. I told her I'm depressed. She's buying it. She's so desperate to be a savior. I'm going to disappear to Europe. By the time I come back, the kid won't even know me, and I'll be free. Dated 2 weeks after Lynn was born. This wasn't postpartum depression. This was a strategy. She had weaponized her own child to manipulate our parents for a car, and then planned the abandonment. Got you, I whispered. I took photos of every page with my phone. Then I took the physical diary and the letter. I put everything else back exactly as I found it. As I was leaving the basement, I heard the front door open. Did you leave the light on, Bob? My mom's voice. They were home early. I froze. I was at the bottom of the basement stairs. There was no other way out. I don't think so, Dad mumbled. Footsteps approached the basement door. I looked around frantically. There was the old coal chute, boarded up years ago, but the latch was rusty. I scrambled onto the washing machine and wrestled with the latch. It gave way with a screech of rusted metal. What was that? Dad's voice was right at the door. I hoisted myself up and squeezed through the small opening into the backyard just as the basement light flicked on. I fell onto the wet grass, scraping my arm, clutching the diary to my chest like a shield. I ran. I ran through the neighbor's yard, through the hedges, all the way to my car. I sat in the driver's seat, panting, muddy, and bleeding. But I was smiling. A cold, terrifying smile. I had the receipts. And I was going to burn her world down with them. The joy of finding the diary was short-lived. Rachel realized I wasn't going to fold, so she decided to break me before we even got to court. It started with the phone calls. I was at work cleaning a patient's teeth when the receptionist, Brenda, knocked on the door. Her face was pale. "Jasmine, can I see you for a second?" I stepped out. "What's wrong?" We got a call," Brenda whispered, looking around to make sure no patients were listening. "Someone claimed you were stealing narcotics from the supply cabinet." My jaw dropped. "What? That's insane. I don't even have the key to the narcotic locker." "I know," Brenda said, her eyes sympathetic. "Dr. Martinez knows it's bogus too. But the caller, they said they were a concerned family member, and they've filed a report with the dental board. We have to do an internal audit. It's protocol." "Rachel." I felt a hot flush of humiliation. "I'm so sorry, Brenda. It's my sister. She's trying to ruin me." "We've got your back, Jazz," she said. "But be careful." That was just the beginning. 2 days later, Child Protective Services, CPS, showed up at my apartment. I was making dinner. Lynn was watching cartoons. When I opened the door and saw the 2 social workers with their clipboards, I felt like I was going to throw up. "We received an anonymous tip regarding neglect and unsanitary living conditions," the woman said, stepping past me. "They searched my home. They looked in my fridge. They checked Lynn's room. They made me strip Lynn down to check for bruises." Seeing Lynn's confused, terrified face as strangers inspected her body broke something inside me. I held her hand, whispering that it was just a checkup, like at the doctor's. "Who called you?" I asked the social worker, my voice shaking with suppressed rage. "We can't disclose that," she said, marking something on her clipboard. "But the report mentioned you leave the child alone at night to entertain men. I haven't been on a date in 4 years." I snapped. The apartment was spotless. Lynn was healthy. They found nothing. But the invasion remained. The violation. Then came the school. I went to pick up Lynn on Friday and the teacher, Mrs. Gable, pulled me aside. "Lynn was crying today," she said gently. "Some of the other kids, they told her that her real mommy is rich and wants to save her from the fake mommy. I so read. "Who told them that?" "It seems one of the parents is a friend of your sister's," Mrs. Gable said awkwardly. "Rumors are spreading, Jasmine. People are saying you kidnapped Lynn." I looked over at the playground. Lynn was sitting alone on the swing, her head down. Other mothers were huddled in a group, whispering and looking at me. When I caught their eye, they turned away. Rachel wasn't just attacking me legally, she was socially executing me. She was poisoning my workplace, my home, and my daughter's sanctuary. I took Lynn home. We stopped for ice cream, but she barely touched it. "Mommy," she asked softly. "Am I stolen?" I pulled the car over. I unbuckled my seatbelt and climbed into the back seat to hold her. "No, baby. You are not stolen. You are saved. You are loved. Do you hear me? You are the most wanted child in the world." She nodded, tears leaking from her big brown eyes. That night, I didn't sleep. I installed a Ring camera on my front door. I put recording apps on my phone. I organized my files. Rachel wanted a villain. Fine. I would be the villain in her story. But in Lynn's story, I was the hero. And heroes don't quit. I texted Mr. Henderson, I have evidence. And I'm ready to fight dirty. The courtroom smelled of wood polish and anxiety. I sat on the left side, Mr. Henderson beside me. He looked rumpled in his gray suit, shuffling papers. On the other side, Rachel sat next to a lawyer who looked like a shark in a three-piece suit. His name was Sterling, and he reportedly charged $800 an hour. Rachel was dressed in a modest navy dress, wearing pearls. She looked demure. Sad. Maternal. It was the best acting performance of her life. My parents sat in the gallery behind Rachel. They didn't even look at me. Marcus was there too, looking serious and supportive, holding Rachel's hand whenever the judge wasn't looking. The trial began. Sterling stood up and painted a masterpiece of lies. Your Honor, he began, his voice baritone and smooth. This is a story of redemption. A young mother, suffering from severe postpartum psychosis, was taken advantage of by an older, jealous sister who sought to replace her. He called Rachel to the stand. She cried on cue. Real tears. I had to give it to her, she was good. I didn't want to leave her, Rachel sobbed, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I was sick. I was confused. Jasmine told me to go. She said, go rest, I'll watch her. I didn't know she would change the locks. I didn't know she would turn my own parents against me. Lies. All lies. And now? Sterling asked gently. Now I am healed, Rachel said, lifting her chin bravely. I have a loving home. I have the means to give Lynn the world. I just want my baby back. I've missed 6 years of her life because I was too weak to fight Jasmine. The judge, a middle-aged woman named Judge Miller, looked sympathetic. She took notes, nodding. Then came the witness. Brittany Chen. I knew Brittany. She was Rachel's high school minion. The kind of girl who would bully you in the bathroom, and then ask for answers to the math test. Brittany walked to the stand, looking nervous. Ms. Chen, were you present during the time Lynn was born? Sterling asked. Yes, Brittany said. I was there almost every day. And what did you observe regarding the defendant, Jasmine? Brittany took a breath. She glanced at Rachel, then at me. Jasmine was aggressive. She kept telling Rachel she was a bad mom. She kept saying, give the baby to me, you're useless. I saw Jasmine make Rachel sign papers while Rachel was high on pain meds. A collective gasp went through the room. My blood boiled. I gripped the table so hard a fingernail snapped. She's lying, I whispered to Henderson. She wasn't even in the state. She was at college in Arizona. Shoo, Henderson said, scribbling furiously. Let them dig the hole. Brittany continued. Rachel cried every night. She wanted her baby. But Jasmine threatened to call the police if Rachel came back. It was a total fabrication. But it was damaging. I could see the judge's face hardening as she looked at me. To her, I was looking less like a savior and more like a kidnapper. Rachel looked over at me. A tiny, triumphant smirk played on her lips. She thought she had won. She thought money could buy history. Marcus put his arm around her, whispering comfort. He bought it too. He really thought he was rescuing a damsel from an evil dragon. Henderson leaned over to me. You got that video you told me about? The one from the Ring camera. Yes, I said, patting my pocket where the USB drive was. Good, Henderson grinned. It was a wolfish grin. Because it's time to cross-examine. Mr. Henderson stood up. He didn't have the swagger of Sterling. He moved slowly, like a tired old bear. Ms. Chen, Henderson rasped. You say you were there in 2018. Can you provide any travel receipts? Plane tickets? Gas station charges? I drove, Brittany stammered. I paid cash. Cash. I see, Henderson paced. And you say you saw Jasmine threaten Rachel. Was this verbal or physical? Both, Brittany said, gaining confidence. She pushed her. Interesting, Henderson said. He walked back to our table and picked up a piece of paper. Miss Chen, are you aware that perjury is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison? Brittany paled. I'm telling the truth. Are you? Henderson turned to the judge. Your Honor, I would like to submit Exhibit C into evidence. It is a video recording from the defendant's front door security camera, dated 3 days ago. Sterling jumped up. Objection. Ambush. It goes to the credibility of the witness, Your Honor, Henderson said, calm as a frozen lake. The judge nodded. Overruled. Play it. The large screen on the wall flickered to life. The timestamp showed 10:45 p.m. My front porch. The video showed Brittany Chen standing there. But she wasn't alone. Rachel was there too. In the audio, clear as day, Rachel's voice cut through the courtroom. Here's the cash, Britt. 5,000. Another 5 when you testify. Brittany in the video, I don't know, Ratch. Lying to a judge. What if they find out I was in Arizona? Rachel, they won't. Just say Jasmine forced me. Say she was abusive. Make me look like a victim. Marcus needs to believe I fought for her. Just do it, or I tell everyone about what you did in Cabo. Brittany took the envelope. Fine. But if this goes south, I don't know you. The screen went black. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. You could hear a pin drop. Then, pandemonium. Marcus stood up, his face gray. Rachel? Rachel sat frozen, her face draining of all color. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. Brittany Chen burst into tears on the witness stand. She made me do it. She blackmailed me. I needed the money. The judge banged her gavel. Bang. Bang. Order. Order in this court. Judge Miller turned her glare on Brittany. Miss Chen, you are to remain in this building. The bailiff will escort you to a holding room. We will discuss perjury charges shortly. Then she turned to Rachel. The look of sympathy was gone, replaced by icy fury. Ms. Miller, explanations will be required. Mr. Sterling, control your client. Sterling looked like he wanted to vanish. He moved away from Rachel as if she were radioactive. I looked at my parents. My mom had her hand over her mouth. My dad was staring at the floor. The narrative was cracking. Rachel looked at me. The smirk was gone. In its place was pure, unadulterated panic. Henderson sat down and winked at me. That went well. But we weren't done. We had destroyed her character witness, but we hadn't proven the neglect yet. We hadn't proven the motive. Next witness, the judge barked. The defense calls Dr. Nathaniel Peterson, Henderson announced. Dr. Peterson was an older man, a pediatrician with 30 years of experience. He walked to the stand with the gravitas of a man who dealt in facts, not feelings. Dr. Peterson, Henderson began. Did you treat the minor child, Lynn Miller, on November 14, 2018? I did, the doctor replied, adjusting his glasses. Can you describe her condition? Dr. Peterson opened a file. The infant presented with severe dehydration, stage 2 hypothermia, and severe diaper dermatitis, diaper rash, that had caused blistering and bleeding. Her vocal cords were inflamed, consistent with prolonged screaming. She had lost nearly 15% of her body weight in fluids. Rachel's lawyer, Sterling, tried to object. Objection, relevance. It goes to the fitness of the mother, the judge snapped. Overruled. Dr. Peterson, Henderson continued. In your professional opinion, how long had the child been neglected to reach this state? At least 8 to 10 hours without fluids or changing, Dr. Peterson said, looking directly at Rachel. It was a near-fatal case of neglect. If Jasmine hadn't brought her in that night, the child would have gone into kidney failure by morning. Rachel shrank in her seat. Marcus was staring at her, horror written all over his face. Thank you, Doctor, Henderson said. Your Honor, Henderson said, his voice dropping an octave. We have one final piece of evidence. A journal. He walked over to the exhibit table and picked up the black leather book I had retrieved from the basement. This is the personal diary of Rachel Miller, recovered from the family home. Along with a letter written to a friend. Objection. Privacy. Sterling shouted. The diary was found in a communal storage area of a home where my client has legal access, Henderson argued. And it speaks directly to the intent of abandonment. The judge waved her hand. I'll allow it. Read the relevant passages. Henderson opened the book. He didn't need to be theatrical. The words were damning enough. March 4, 2018. I hate this baby. I swear as soon as it's out, I'm dumping it. Jasmine loves kids. She's pathetic enough to take it. I watched the jury, well, there was no jury, just the judge, but I watched the room. My mother was sobbing quietly now. Not for Rachel, but for the truth she had ignored for 6 years. Henderson picked up the letter. Once the brat is born, I'm going to play the sad young mom card, get dad to buy me that convertible, then leave the baby with Jasmine. By the time I come back, the kid won't even know me, and I'll be free. Henderson closed the book with a heavy thud. This wasn't depression, Your Honor, he said softly. This was a transaction. Rachel Miller traded her daughter for a convertible and a vacation. And now? Now she wants her back. The question is, why? Henderson turned to face the gallery, looking directly at Marcus. Why, after 6 years of silence, does she suddenly need custody? I looked at Marcus. He looked sick. He looked like a man who had just realized he was sleeping next to a viper. And I knew in that moment that we had won the battle of the past. But the war for the future, that was about to get explosive. Because I saw the look in Rachel's eyes. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was hatred. Pure, unadulterated hatred. She leaned over to Sterling and whispered something aggressive. He shook his head. She slammed her hand on the table. The judge glared. Ms. Miller, stand down. The courtroom felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. We had stripped her naked in front of the world. But a cornered animal is the most dangerous kind. The silence in the courtroom following Mr. Henderson's question was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with the invisible weight of a truth that was about to crush my sister. Why? Henderson repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Why does a woman who described her unborn child as a parasite and a career killer suddenly want to play Mother of the Year? Sterling, Rachel's lawyer, stood up. He looked tired. The fight had drained out of him the moment the diary was read. Objection. Speculation. I have the answer, Your Honor, Henderson said, ignoring him. He walked back to our table and picked up a thick document bound in blue paper. We subpoenaed the financial records regarding the prenuptial agreement between Ms. Miller and Mr. Marcus Thorne. Rachel gasped. It was a sharp, ugly sound, like a tire blowing out. She lunged forward, her hand knocking over her water pitcher. You can't read that. That's private. That has nothing to do with Lynn. It has everything to do with Lynn, Henderson said, his voice rising over hers. The judge looked over her glasses. Sit down, Ms. Miller. or I will have you removed. Rachel sat, but she was vibrating with rage. She looked at Marcus. Marcus wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the blue folder in Henderson's hand with a dawning look of horror. Henderson handed the document to the bailiff to give to the judge. Your Honor, if you turn to page 14, paragraph 3, subsection B. This creates a specific family stability trust established by Mr. Thorne's grandmother. I watched Marcus. He knew about the trust. But he clearly didn't know what Henderson was about to say next. Henderson read aloud. Upon the marriage of Marcus Thorne, a sum of $2 million shall be released to his spouse for the purpose of maintaining the family estate, provided that said spouse enters the marriage with no outstanding legal liabilities and demonstrates a stable family unit, including full custody of any biological children. The heir left the room. Furthermore, Henderson continued, the funds are to be transferred into a joint account accessible by the spouse only if the wedding takes place before the fiscal year ends on December 31st, and all custody disputes are resolved. I did the math in my head. Today was December 12th. Their wedding was next week. Rachel didn't want a daughter. She wanted a key. Lynn was the key to a $2 million lock. I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. I didn't see the monster anymore. I saw something pathetic. A creature so hollowed out by greed that she would drag a 6-year-old child through the trauma of a court battle just to secure a bag of cash. Is this true? Marcus stood up. He ignored the judge. He ignored the bailiff stepping forward. He turned to Rachel, his face a mask of betrayal. You told me you wanted her back because you dreamed about her. You told me you cried every birthday. I did. Rachel shrieked, grabbing his arm. Marcus, baby, don't listen to them. They're twisting it. I love her. Marcus pulled his arm away as if she burned him. You asked me to move the wedding up. You said it was because you couldn't wait to be my wife. But it was the deadline. It was the money. It's our money. Rachel screamed, her mask fully slipping now. The poised socialite was gone. The bratty, entitled teenager was back. I earned it. I put up with your boring family dinners. I pretended to like your mother. I deserve that payout. The courtroom erupted. The judge hammered her gavel, but the damage was done. Rachel had confessed. Not legally, but morally, in front of the only person whose opinion mattered for her bank account. Marcus looked at her with pure disgust. We're done, Rachel. He turned and walked out of the courtroom. The heavy wooden doors slammed shut behind him with a finality that echoed in my bones. Rachel stood there, shaking. Then she turned her eyes to me. If looks could kill, I would have dropped dead right there. There was no humanity in her eyes. Just a black, bottomless void of malice. She mouthed 3 words to me. You will pay. I shivered. I looked at Henderson. He gave me a grim nod. We had won the logic war. We had exposed the motive. But looking at Rachel, I knew the danger wasn't over. It had just changed shape. Judge Miller didn't mince words. She looked at Rachel with the kind of disappointment usually reserved for criminals who hurt animals. Ms. Miller, the judge said, her voice echoing in the silent room. In my 20 years on the bench, I have rarely seen a case of such calculated manipulation. You abandoned your child. You lied to this court. You bribed a witness. And it appears you attempted to use your daughter as a financial pawn. Rachel sat slumped in her chair, staring at the table. Her lawyer, Sterling, was already packing his briefcase, clearly distancing himself from the train wreck. I am denying your petition for custody with prejudice, the judge ruled. Furthermore, I am stripping you of all parental rights. Jasmine Miller is granted full legal and physical adoption rights, effective immediately. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 6 years. I grabbed Henderson's hand. He squeezed it back. Wait, the judge continued. I am also forwarding the transcripts of this trial, specifically the testimony regarding Ms. Brittany Chen, and the bribe, to the district attorney's office. I suggest you get a criminal defense attorney, Ms. Miller. You're going to need one. The gavel banged. It was over. Or so I thought. I walked out of the courtroom, my legs feeling like jelly. I just wanted to go home and hug Lynn. I wanted to order a pizza, and watch cartoons and forget that people like Rachel existed. But my parents were waiting in the hallway. They didn't look happy. They didn't look relieved that their granddaughter was safe with the person who actually loved her. They looked furious. How could you, my mother hissed, stepping into my path. I stopped. Excuse me. You humiliated her, my dad said, his face red. You aired our dirty laundry in public. Did you have to bring up the diary? Did you have to ruin her engagement? I stared at them. I genuinely couldn't process the level of delusion. She tried to sell Lynn for $2 million, I said, my voice shaking. Did you miss that part? She didn't want your granddaughter. She wanted a payday. She made a mistake. Mom cried, tears streaming down her face. Now Marcus is gone. The money is gone. She could go to jail, Jasmine. Your own sister. How can you live with yourself? Something inside me snapped. The last tether that held me to these people, the obligation of family, finally severed. I can live with myself just fine, I said, stepping closer to them. Because when I go home tonight, I'm going to tuck a happy, healthy little girl into bed. A girl who knows she is loved. Unlike Rachel, who you turned into a monster by never letting her face a single consequence in her life. We did the best we could, Dad grumbled. No, you didn't, I said coldly. You enabled her. You chose the golden child. Well, look at her now. She's not gold. She's rust. And I am done cleaning up the mess. I walked past them. If you walk away, don't come back, Mom shouted after me. You're tearing this family apart. I didn't turn around. The family was broken long before today, Mom. I'm just the only one who survived the wreckage. I walked to the elevator. I felt lighter. I had lost my parents, yes. But I had saved my daughter. It was a trade I would make 1,000 times over. But as the elevator doors closed, I saw Rachel coming out of the courtroom. She wasn't crying anymore. She was typing furiously on her phone. She looked up, saw me through the narrowing gap of the doors and smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who has nothing left to lose. I should have known then. I should have asked for police protection right then. But I thought the law was enough. I thought a piece of paper signed by a judge was a shield. I was wrong. A piece of paper can't stop a hurricane. And Rachel was a Category 5 storm headed straight for my little girl. 2 weeks passed. Silence. The district attorney was building a case against Rachel for perjury and bribery, but she had posted bail and was out. I had a restraining order, a piece of paper that said she had to stay 500 feet away from Lynn. I relaxed. That was my mistake. It was a Tuesday, just like the day she returned. It was raining again. The sky was a bruised purple, heavy with a storm. I was at the clinic organizing files when my cell phone rang. It was the school. Ms. Miller. It was the principal, Mrs. Hendricks. Her voice was tight, panicked. You need to get here. Now. What happened? I dropped the files. Is Lynn okay? Your sister is here, she said. She's trying to take Lynn. We've locked the front doors, but she's in the courtyard. She's screaming. I didn't even hang up. I ran. I left my purse. I left my coat. I jumped into my car and drove. The drive to the school usually took 15 minutes. I made it in 6. I ran red lights. I drove on the shoulder. My heart was a frantic bird battering against my ribs. Please, God. Please. When I pulled up to the elementary school, it was chaos. Parents were gathered on the sidewalk. A police cruiser was just pulling up, lights flashing but no siren. I abandoned my car in the middle of the street and sprinted toward the gate. I saw her. Rachel was in the playground area. She looked disheveled. Her hair was matted, her expensive clothes stained. She looked like a ghost of the woman in the cashmere coat. She was pounding on the glass doors of the cafeteria, where the after-school program was held. "Lynn," she screamed, her voice raw and terrifying. "Lynn, come to mommy. We're going to Disneyland, baby. Open the door." Inside the glass, I saw the teachers huddled in the corner, shielding the children. I saw Lynn. She was pressing herself into the wall, her hands over her ears, sobbing. "Rachel!" I screamed, running toward the fence. "Stop it." Rachel spun around. Her eyes were wild. Dilated. She was high on something, or maybe just high on desperation. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "You stole her. You poisoned her against me. I need her. Marcus said if I get her back he might listen. I just need to show him." She was still chasing the money. Even now. "It's over, Rachel," I yelled, climbing over the low chain-link fence. "Look at her. You're terrifying her. She loves me." Rachel shrieked. She picked up a heavy landscaping rock and smashed it against the glass door. Crash. The safety glass spiderwebbed but didn't shatter. The kids inside screamed. "Rachel, no." I tackled her just as she raised the rock again. We hit the wet mulch of the playground hard. She was stronger than she looked, fueled by adrenaline and madness. She clawed at my face, screaming obscenities. "Give her to me. I need the trust fund. I have debts, Jasmine. I owe people money. She is not a check." I grunted, pinning her arms down. "She is a person. She's mine." Rachel spat in my face. "I made her." "You made her," I panted, holding her down as the sirens wailed closer. "But I raised her. And I will die before I let you touch her again." 2 police officers pulled me off her. They wrestled Rachel into the mud, handcuffing her behind her back. She didn't stop screaming. She screamed about the money. She screamed about how unfair it was. She screamed for our mother. I stood up, wiping mud and blood from my face. My lip was split. My arm was throbbing. But I didn't care. I walked to the shattered door. The principal unlocked it. Lynn ran to me. She hit my chest with the force of a cannonball. I fell to my knees and wrapped my arms around her, burying my face in her neck. "It's okay," I sobbed, rocking her back and forth. "It's okay. The bad dream is over. I've got you. I've got you." As the police dragged Rachel to the cruiser, she looked back one last time. She looked at Lynn clinging to me. And for the first time, I saw the realization hit her. Not that she had lost the money, but that she had lost the war. She had underestimated the one thing money can't buy, the bond between a mother and child. A bond that isn't forged in blood but in presence. In showed-upness. I watched the police car drive away, taking the ghost of my sister with it. "Is she gone?" Lynn whispered against my shoulder. "Yes, baby," I kissed her forehead. "She's gone for a long, long time." The months that followed were a blur of therapy, legal paperwork and healing. Rachel pleaded guilty. Faced with the assault charges, the attempted kidnapping, the bribery, and the drugs found in her system that day at the school, she didn't have a choice. She was sentenced to 5 years in state prison. My parents tried to call me once. I didn't answer. I blocked their numbers. I blocked their emails. I heard through the grapevine that they had mortgaged their house to pay for Rachel's initial legal fees, and were now struggling. It's sad, I suppose. But it's not my burden anymore. I put that heavy backpack down the day Rachel was arrested. Life now is quiet. But it's a good quiet. Yesterday was the official adoption day. We went to the courthouse, a different courtroom this time, with a judge who smiled and gave Lynn a teddy bear. When the judge asked Lynn, "Do you want Jasmine to be your mommy forever?" Lynn didn't hesitate. "She is already my mommy," she said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong. "We're just making it legal so nobody can steal me." We celebrated with ice cream and a trip to the beach. Now, as I sit here writing this, Lynn is asleep in the next room. The nightmares have stopped. She's joined the art club at school. She drew a picture today. It's on the fridge. It shows 2 stick figures. One big, one small. They are holding hands under a big yellow sun. The big figure has a cape. Underneath, in her wobbly 6-year-old handwriting, it says, "My hero." I look at that drawing, and I realize something. Rachel thought being a mother was a title she could claim whenever it was convenient. She thought it was a right. But being a mother isn't a noun. It's a verb. It's the doing. It's the staying. It's the protecting. I didn't give birth to Lynn. I didn't feel her kick inside me. But I healed her scars. I dried her tears. I fought the monsters for her. And in the end, love won. Not the flashy, expensive kind of love that buys ponies and private schools. But the gritty, fierce, unshakable love that stands in the rain and refuses to move. I sip my tea and look out the window. The storm has passed. The sky is clear. We are safe. We are free. And for the first time in my life, I am not the sister of the golden child. I am just Jasmine. I am a mother. And that is enough. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a long journey, and sharing it with you has been part of my healing. If you made it to the end, please comment the letter A below so I know you're one of the real ones who stand against injustice. And tell me, do you think I should ever let my parents see Lynn again? Or did they lose that right when they chose Rachel? I read every single comment. Please subscribe for more stories of truth and survival. You are my community, and I appreciate you.